Hey guys, some of the most popular videos on YouTube are conspiracy videos, talking about various conspiracies. Some of the most unpopular videos on YouTube are ones where people debunk or say conspiracies are bullshit or particular conspiracies are bullshit. Obviously conspiracies exist. If two or more people conspire to deceive other people, it's a conspiracy. So obviously conspiracies exist, but it's a matter of whether particular ones exist or not. So we made the mistake on the other channel, on the Japan channel, of making a comment about condensation trails, contrails, and it brought a couple of people out of the woodwork who were trying to tell us that we were blind, we were being deceived by our government into believing that there was nothing nefarious going on and that we were fools. So just want to start by just giving a couple of bits of my background and just where my sources have come from. I've been a pilot for 28 years. I was taught to fly various aircraft by 3 different instructors. 2 of them are some of the most experienced instructors in Australia, and none of those people have any connections to the CIA at all. One of the subjects as a commercial pilot, as a private pilot as well, but then as a commercial pilot as well, one of the subjects we study is meteorology, among other things. So we study meteorology, which includes, weather and clouds and things like that. And we had various textbooks that we studied along the way as well that were written by people who also weren't connected to the CIA. So basically what it is, for those of you, I don't want to try and make this into a scientific video, because there'd be people that are more qualified to do that than I am. So I don't want to go on that track, but I'll just do a really quick introduction for those people who don't know what a condensation trail is. Some of you might remember from school talking about the weather and about how when the air reaches a certain humidity and a certain temperature, how clouds are formed. And depending on what's happening in the weather that day, depending on what the humidity is, and depending on what the temperature is at different heights, that's why cloud forms at different heights. So it happens to be the right humidity and the right temperature. We can get fog on the ground, or we might get cloud at 2,000 feet or 5,000 feet or 10,000 feet, depending on what the air humidity is and what the temperature is at different heights, because the temperature varies at different heights, right? So what can happen is you can have a perfectly clear sky, and then something can happen to change the density of the air. So for example, the most common one that we all see is mountain waves. So you've got a mountain and you've got wind that blows over the mountain, and then waves up and down and up and down. And quite often what can happen is where the wind blows over the mountain and waves up and down and up and down. And what can happen is where it waves up, you can get a line of cloud. And then it goes down again, there's no cloud. It comes up again, it makes another cloud. And what it's actually doing is just moving the humid air into a different temperature zone. So that the temperature up here is cooler than it is down here, and it's just pushing the air up into that cooler area, and it's condensing and making a cloud. So the point of explaining that is that it shows that nature does the same thing. Nature can change where the humid air is. It can move the humid air. Mount Fuji is a good example in Japan. Quite often on the downwind side of Mount Fuji you get a cloud, and it's because the wind goes over the top of Mount Fuji, down the other side, makes a cloud, and that's quite normal too. So that's all perfectly normal. So then what happens with aircraft is, as the aircraft pass through the sky, the air goes into the jet and out the back, and it changes the density of it. So it comes out more dense, and it makes the condensation trail. Condensation, condensed air, right? So it's the condensation is formed in the air and makes the trail at the back. And usually when you see it in the sky, it's coming out the back of the engines. It doesn't come out immediately behind. Usually what happens is it comes out and it flows, and it sort of comes out in a spiral, and then usually the cloud that we can see starts to form a little bit behind the engine, and then back it comes. But it can also be formed just from the wings themselves, because the wing makes the air change its speed, and then it comes together. The air separates for the wing and then comes together again at the trailing edge, and it can become more dense at the trailing edge. And what can sometimes happen is the wing tips in particular can often form condensation trail as well. So nothing to do with the engine at all, just straight off the wingtips. Not as common, but it does happen. So that's all perfectly normal. So then the argument that the people that say that it's a CIA conspiracy or it's a whoever it is conspiracy spraying chemicals say that, you know, you can see the difference. You can see the difference between a condensation trail and a chemical trail because the chemical trails dissipate more slowly or something. Now what's going on there is depending on what the weather's doing up high. So if you get a really still day where there's not a lot of wind, there's not a lot happening, it's all very still, what you can find is that you look up and you see the condensation trail behind the airplane and it'll be there for ages and really clear. You know, it's quite beautiful, isn't it? And because it's just water, it's condensation. Of course there's exhaust and shit coming out the back of the airplane, quite a lot of it, and it's horrible and it's not healthy shit, but it's not a conspiracy. It's just shit comes out the back of the engine same as it does come out of the back of your car, but you can't see it. You can't see it because it's exhaust, the same as you usually can't see the exhaust coming out of your car. So it's just blowing, it's coming back. So if it's a clear day, there's nice straight lines in the sky and they stay there for ages. However, if it's a day where there's a bit of air turbulence and there's wind and there's all sorts of stuff going on, then of course it dissipates it more quickly. And then just research this briefly because I wanted to have a look at what the conspiracy nuts were saying, conspiracy people were saying. And one photo in particular showed one condensation trail up high, one contrail up really, really high, and then another one coming across. And the one up really, really high was a nice straight line, nice and clean, and the one down here was dissipating, was wider and was moving, right? And so they labelled it, this is a condensation trail and this is a chemical trail, right? So because they're different, you can see the difference. There's a condensation trail, there's a chemical trail, there's the proof. No, again, it's the weather thing. What's happening in the air is different at 40,000 feet than what it was at 10,000 feet. So that's why the one that's right up high has stayed together and the one that's at 40,000, 10,000 feet or whatever has moved. So it's just the air. Anybody that studies meteorology, anyone that's been to high school knows the air's moving at different rates in different areas. There's all sorts of stuff going on. It's churning around all over the place. So it's not consistent. So that's why. And the other thing is that the aircraft at different heights, the air's different at different heights, the aircraft designs and shapes and everything else is different heights, so it's making a different trail as well. So as for the science of it, if you really want to know for yourself, if you're really not sure about this, you want to know for yourself, just ask your physics teacher, ask a meteorology teacher, or just search it and look for credible sources. Be really careful. You know, it's like when you Google stuff. Just look for the credible sources and look for the explanation of this. And it's just, there's not a thinking scientist anywhere who's saying it's chemicals. It's just bullshit. Just a quick thing on that too. The government, you know, when I searched chemtrail and came up with all this stuff, you know, all this conspiracy shit. The government, and the guy that left the comment on our Japan channel said that the government is doing this in every country. So which government? All the governments? All the governments? So not only are all the instructors that ever taught me about all this stuff are all in the conspiracy, but every government, or is it just the American government? Just a quick question. If the government is spraying these chemicals, now, as a pilot knows, how do you get the chemicals? Are all the pilots in on this as well? Are the fuel companies in on this as well? Are the refuelers in on this as well? Are the chemists? There's a lot of chemists. One thing that the aviation industry does regularly is test fuel. So they randomly take fuel from fuel trucks and test it. And they randomly take fuel from wings, from the fuel tanks of aircraft, and they test it. So if you're going to put some mysterious chemical in the fuel, there's a lot of people who test the fuel to see exactly what's in it. It's a safety thing. It's what we do for safety, right? So, I mean, other than the fact that pilots ourselves, every time we fly the aircraft, we drain some fuel out of the tank and look at it and smell it and test it and throw it away. And, you know, so But the scientist guys who test it properly then go off and put it under microscopes and run an analysis of it, and it comes up and tells me exactly what's in it. So you need all those people in on the conspiracy as well. And the other problem is the government that's organising this huge international conspiracy to spray all these chemicals on us. Who is the government? And where do these people live? Because obviously there must be this government that's doing this, must be a big room full of dudes, right? Like Austin Powers style, Dr. Evil type dudes all sitting around in a room organising this conspiracy. Where do they live? Because any of these conspiracies about stuff in our water or stuff in the air that they're spraying in the air, where do they live and where do their families live? Because what's the deal? Are they not spraying in the cities that they live in? Are they only putting these chemicals into aircraft that won't fly near their own houses? Because obviously if there's chemicals in the air that they're spraying to affect us, you and I, then it's going to affect them and their families too, right? So how do they get around that? What do they only put the chemicals in aircraft that are going to fly away, that aren't going to fly near their own house? Or where do they live? The government. Where do those people live? You know, and their families. It's bullshit, sorry. It's just bullshit. So look, if you want to say it's not bullshit, and I believe it's true, and anything else you want to say on this video, that's fine. But please don't do that, you're ignorant, you're stupid stuff. Because I tried to avoid saying stuff like that myself in this video, so please don't leave comments like that, because I will delete them. That sort of argument, you're blind, you're stupid, you're ignorant, the government's fooling you, you know, you don't know what's going on, you're not smart enough to know, you're too stupid to know, all those insults that we get. Anytime anybody says, I don't believe that conspiracy, all the conspiracy people who do believe in that conspiracy all say, you're a fool, you're an ignorant, you're a sheep, you're all those other million things that they say to insult people who don't believe in their conspiracies. And, you know, a lot of conspiracy theories is like, well, I don't know about JFK, and, you know, I don't really know about the moon landing. I think the Russians do. The Russians were watching the Americans when they did the moon landing, and I think if it was bullshit, the Russians would have said, hey, we were watching it through a big telescope and it's all bullshit. But they didn't, did they? So, but I don't know about any of those topics. But this topic I do happen to know about. And from a practical point of view, it's just not doable. The explanation for the trails is simple. That any person who understands meteorology, any person who understands physics, has no problem understanding the condensation trail thing at all. And the alternative, the conspiracy theory about putting chemicals into aeroplanes and then, you know, and they're flying them around the countryside, it's just not practical. It's just not, it's not doable. From people who spend time on tarmacs around aircraft and been through all the process and everything else, it's just not practical. It's just not doable. So again, anyone who wants to believe it, that's fine. That's fine. But please don't do the insults. Talk about, if you want to leave a comment and say that you believe in the conspiracy and explain why. Explain to us why it's really happening. The chemicals are really there, and if you want to explain all that's fine. But please don't throw any insults about people who don't believe it are stupid or anything else, because that will be deleted and you'll be blocked, and no one will get to read the comment then, which is no point in having left it. And it won't bother me, because I'm used to that. I get that all the time. You're an idiot, you're too stupid to believe. That's about as far as I go. Delete, block, mute. Well, I don't care. I don't care. But it's like, the thing of this with the insults, it's like if I came to the front door of your house and pinned a note to your front door saying you're a dickhead, you're a dumb brain or something, and pinned it to the front door of your house, would you leave it there or would you take it down? And if you did take it down, which you would, wouldn't you? Would that mean that it was true? Wouldn't mean it was true, would it? And because that's the other argument. If you delete my comment, it must be because it's true. Or if you want to argue, no, it's the same thing. I'm not going to give people a platform to abuse me on my own channel. That would be stupid, wouldn't it? That would be dumb head. So keep it civilized on the topic. The topic is chemtrails. Do they exist? I say no. I say the chemtrail conspiracy theory is bullshit. More videos coming soon.